Welcome back to Eddie's Launchpads, the Dogsthorpe Infant School podcast for parents, carers, teachers and schools. Dogsthorpe Infant School is part of Hampton Academies Trust. We want every child to dream, believe and shine.
OK, Eddie, start the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go.
This podcast is brought to you by Eddie Edster, the Dogsthorpe Infant School wellbeing dog.
Eddie and I are off to Greece. Now, children, if you don't know where Greece is, get an adult at home to get their phone out or their maps out and show you where Greece is. It's lovely. It's lovely. I've been there myself. Beautiful parts of Greece, beautiful parts and a great rich history. But we're off to Greece because we're going to meet someone who's been on the show before. You would have known our author that we've got on the show today because she's written a book called Poppy's Tale. And if you go into our list of episodes, 150 episodes. If you go back down through the list, you'll find a podcast called Poppy's Tale. And that's where we met our author today and our guest today. And she's back today, Cate Douglas. Welcome to the show, Cate.
Thank you very much, Captain Dave and Eddie and everyone at Dogsthorpe.
Yeah, indeed. It's lovely to have you back. And we're feeling the heat. I don't know if it's the Greece heat, but we're feeling the heat today. Poor old Eddie is really struggling. He's puffing and panting a bit here. But never mind, we're all right. I think he's going to have his sleep, listeners. And he knows that at lunchtime he gets his sausage, his cocktail sausage. So I'm sure he's sitting there dreaming of his cocktail sausage. Now, here we go. Cate, it's lovely to have you back on the show, and we still got Poppy's Tale, and it's still just as popular at our school, and I'm sure it's popular in a lot of schools.
Poppy's Tale is about a little girl, as you know, it's about a little girl who dreams that she has a tail, and she tries out lots of different animal tails, and then invents one of her own, which is a rainbow tail. So what I do when I go to schools, where Poppy's Tale is very much loved, I take along a suitcase full of animal tails for the children to try on and waggle around and, really experience what it's like to have a tail of their own. They can choose from all the different tails that I take.
We'll make sure that the link to Poppy's Tale for all the schools and the teachers that are listening who would like to get hold of that, we'll make sure there's a link in the podcast and in the text. Just go in at the end of the show and you're just one click away from that. And now a little birdie tells me, Cate, that you've got a brand new book out.
I do have a brand new book out, Dave. The book is called Brave in a Cave. It's the same age range, so 3 to 5 or 2 to 6, that kind of age group, age range. Poppy's Tale is a rhyming story, whereas Brave in a Cave is not. So that's just the way they felt that they were to be. And both ideas came to me while I was in Greece. I spend, as much of the summer as is possible in Greece. I've had long links here for many years and I have many friends here on a small Greek island. I find that actually the inspiration for both books has come from Greece, although you wouldn't necessarily know it. So I was just lying on a beach in 2016 when the idea for Poppy's Tale popped into my head. Largely around the fact I've always thought it'd be great fun if we all had tails. But the idea for Brave in a Cave actually came many years ago. It was back in 2009, 10, 11. And I wasn't able at that stage in life to continue to take it forward. But now I have had that time. Poppy's Tale kind of came in first out of nowhere. And then Brave in a Cave I picked up from, it's about a little harbour in Greece on the island where I am right now doing this recording. And the characters are little boats and the boats in the harbour are kind of very real to me as these characters. They all have, to me, little faces, little personalities, and roles within the harbour. So this book kind of came from there, and it's part of a series. So this is just one of the stories, the first one that I've done. This is a little community of boats, all with individual personalities and roles, as I said, and they go about their daily activities in and around this little crescent-shaped harbour. And they have plenty of fun and games, but they also get into numerous pickles. So this is just my imagination, how it literally, I've been living in that world. I see them living in this way, these little boats.
When it's you describe the harbour and you describe the boats, and I mean I've read the book, folks, and it's lovely. The children are going to love it at Dogsthorpe Infant School. It's down at Dogsthorpe Infant School now as we speak, and the children, I'm sure, are going to love it when they dip into it, because it's so descriptive of the area. Now, is it, when it comes to the description of the area, are you thinking about a particular Greek harbour, or is it a mixture of all sorts of harbours that you've seen?
Actually, it is a particular Greek harbour. It's very dear to me. And I've actually travelled on one of these boats across to a neighbouring island. So, and I actually had to go at steering it once. They let me, the passenger express boat, which I call Agatha in the story. And so it's the actual harbour. Obviously, it's my interpretation visually of it. So they're my own illustrations. I really wanted to illustrate. I did illustrate Poppy's Tale as well, but I wanted to convey. I knew exactly how I wanted these boats to look, because I know who they are, what their characters are like, the cheeky ones, the naughty ones, this kind of feel. And so it just evolved. I started the illustrations, and then they grow, they come into their own. In a way, the characters take over. And although they write the story first, it can be amended ever so slightly as you go along, as the illustrations evolve.
As you was explaining it and talking about it, and I must admit, as I was reading the book itself, I'm thinking to myself, is this a new Thomas set of books? We've had Thomas the Tank Engine as a series of books and all of the different characters of the trains. We've had Budgie the helicopter at the airport with all the different planes, written by somebody incredibly famous, as indeed was Reverend Audrey, who, folks, I don't know if you know this, you live locally. If you go anywhere near Wisbeach, the Reverend Audrey came from that area, and the trains went past his house. And that's what inspired him to write these Thomas books. And so I guess we look out and we see things out of our windows, perhaps as Cate has done on the beach, or as Reverend Audrey did when he wrote Thomas. Look out and you see something, and suddenly the stories come into your head. And I guess you see these different boats, and you think of the different characters of those boats.
That's exactly how it is. And, there is a huge similarity that emerged with Thomas the Tank Engine. But when I first started writing it, that wasn't the motivation at all. It was just, I look at the boats in the harbour. It's a tiny little harbour, and it's got lots of different boats in it. And it's a crescent shaped, as I said, and I called it Curly Harbour. And across the other island that you can see from Curly Harbour is called Pointy Island. And there's one of the boats, Agatha, travels back and forwards to Pointy Island. And it's all very, very real to me. And the colours, the colours of the Greek flag are blue and white. There's a strong blue dominance, obviously, with the sea. But interestingly, the boat that is Agatha is blue and yellow in real life here, which is the same colours as it happens, as Thomas the Tank Engine. So that's kind of, it was only when I really was partway through it, and I showed to a couple of people, and they they obviously observed that similarity. Whereas to me, I just wanted these. For me, I love the harbour so much, and these little boats, and I can just see them. Maybe it's my inner child expressing itself, but I really wanted to get this story done, and not just stay in my head, but to actually, so that children can enjoy it.
I think that's the thing about writing, and I know that's not. We're not talking just children. If you're listening to this, we're not just talking about famous writers like Cate. We're thinking about when we write a story, or we might think of a story. It may be in you. There may be a good story in you. A single mum goes into a cafe every day, and in Edinburgh. And she sits in this cafe and she's looking out across at Edinburgh Castle, at the huge Edinburgh Castle. If you know Edinburgh and you know that wonderful castle that they've got there. And she looks out and she starts writing a story about a young boy who goes to a school that's got turrets on it. And that young boy is called Harry. And look what happened to that. It became a multi-million-pound set of books and set of films that J.K. Rowling has, it's looked after her. And it all started by that one book as she sat there in that cafe scribbling her notes down. So that's how authors work, folks. We have experiences. We look out at things out of our windows, or we lay on the beach and we look out across a harbour. When you was talking about a harbour, Cate, and I always think this whenever I think of harbours, our own experiences make us think of the things that we've seen. And whenever anybody talks about a harbour, and I'm sure that if you go down the West Country, they'll think of their famous harbours if you talk about harbours. But I always think about, because I'm a Kent boy, I always think of Ramsgate Harbour, which when you drive down to that beautiful harbour, it's not quite so beautiful these days because it's got very commercialised. But when I was a boy, it was a lovely harbour with all these different boats in it. And of course, there was a few fishermen working in those days. And they all of these boats, I can understand exactly what Kate's talking about. All of these boats, I used to love walking around because you had small boats, big boats, you had very beautifully painted boats, and you had boats that had been neglected. You even had wrecks of old boats that hadn't seen open sea for a long time, and they'd just gone into the harbour and just sat there and were slowly rotting away. But all of these boats had different characters, so I can see exactly what you're talking about. What are the sorts of adventures that you think you've got planned for these boats?
Well, in Brave in a Cave, we've got the characters in Brave in a Cave are Agatha, the passenger express. Then we've got Pips and Squeaky, the baby twins, little boats. And we've got Misery Moo, who's always very popular, who's a grumpy old fishing boat. And he causes a lot of trouble generally. And then we've got Bobby, and in the next, we've got more characters coming in the next book, but there are those 5 main characters in this one. And in Brave in a Cave, Agatha, the passenger express, has to make a short trip and leaves Misery Moo, the grumpy old fishing boat, in charge. And Pips and Squeaks, the baby twin boats, he tempts them to leave the harbour, and they end up getting quite a fright. So, it's this little community and their personalities. So they're the little cheeky twins, and then somebody, Bobby comes to their rescue without telling too much, giving away too much of the story. So in the other stories coming up, one of the other ones, something happens to Agatha when she's going on.
Oh, wow.
And then in the story after that, and the book after that, one of the little boats has to make a very scary trip without giving too much away.
No, right, okay.
But you can feel their emotions. The thing with these characters, these boats, one of them is in, or 2 of them actually, are in tears at one point because they're so frightened. And so they really, and when children are reading them, they can really identify with that. And
our children,
and then you get the happy ones and the grumpy ones. And,
Yeah.
Like, and we can be happy, we can be sad,
Yeah.
and we can be grumpy. So,
It's very interesting, isn't it, about our fears, and I guess that particularly for the children that we work with, our infants, they're getting feelings of fear for perhaps for the first time, and whether that's a trip to the doctor or the dentist, or in one case, I'm not going to mention their name, obviously, but we've got someone at school who doesn't like going to the hairdressers. They find that a scary place. And yet when they heard that Eddie was going to have his hair cut the other day, he cuddled Eddie and said to him, "I'll come with you." So, and I thought, wow, so even something that scares you, you probably think that Eddie is scared, and Eddie isn't too pleased when he has to go to have his coat off, ladies and gentlemen. He's not too happy when he has to go and have a haircut. But this little boy thought, I'll come with you. I'll help you through your scary times, So I think that when books like yours, Cate, that talks about scary things, and we've had lots of authors on who've talked about, trips to the hospital or trips to the doctors or trips to the dentist, all of those things, when you see other characters going through those fears and knowing everything's going to be all right, it helps children to understand a bit better about why they feel like they do and how we can get ourselves through it.
Yes, very much so. And this, obviously, it ends in a happy place. It ends at bedtime and everybody's happy. There's a rescue involved. So we get to see about friendship and about help. And, I really like, in my mind also, I have this idea. I used to love dens as a child, making dens. And my daughter, we did a lot of that when she was little. And I just think the fact that that you've got the cave set up here is perfect for a den, making the cave. Children can make the cave at home and actually act out part of the story or, section that's set in the cave. I think there's much more to it, or to any story, using the book as for the imagination to lead them into all kinds of play. One of them could be one little boat if you've got more than one child, or if your child has friends over, and one can be one boat, another can be another. Somebody can be the baby twins, say, and another person can be Misery Moo. That's when it gets really creative for the kids, when they get in the zone of the story, I think. Yeah.
Early days yet, because there's only one book out at the moment, but Budgie and Thomas the Tank Engine went on to become series. It would be nice to think that maybe one day in the future you'll get a phone call to say make it into a series. That would be very nice, wouldn't it? Oh, I'm getting a shaking of a head.
Into an animated TV, absolutely. It's absolutely made for that, because when I'm writing and illustrating, I'm actually imagining them moving around. They're not stationary in my mind. They're whizzing around. And oh my gosh, that would be perfect. That would be really doing the series justice. Yeah.
Well, there we are. So, if you're listening to this and you're a producer and you're thinking to yourself, what's going to be my next move? Get brave in a cave and think to yourself, this could be something really big. All these wonderful characters set in this harbour, inspired by this lady who sat on a beach in Greece and thought about all these wonderful characters. Maybe it's a good time to mention our good friend Sue Atkins and her wonderful book club. A lot of our authors that come on have been through the Sue Atkins Book Club and have come on to our show to tell them about their books. I'm guessing that you've done the same, Cate?
I have indeed. I've had the pleasure of meeting Sue, and I'm part of her. I'm featured in her book club, which is a lovely place to be, and meeting the other author, chatting with the other authors. We have online events, and we connect and share our experiences. So that's really lovely. I mean, Sue's a parenting broadcaster, parenting expert, and I value her input into her enthusiasm.
Yeah.
immensely. So it's fabulous to be a part of that community.
Yeah. We're very lucky to have Sue as our resident. I dread to call her the agony aunt, but she's the one that when the parents have got a particular issue, they contact me and say, "Can you ask Sue about something?" And the wonderful experiences that she's got. She's been a big help to our parents and our families at Dogsthorpe. Now, if people want to get hold of Brave in a Cave, where's the best place for them to go?
It's on Amazon, as is Poppy's Tale. Also, my website, which is www.bobbunbooks.com, and I'll just spell that. It's BOBBUN books.com. Also, have a look at the Sue Atkins Book Club. Will lead you all around, and also into other authors, some other fabulous authors there. And you can follow Cate Douglas, author, is my Instagram handle. Facebook, Cate Douglas Children's Books. Just to explain, it's Cate with a C, C-A-T-E, Douglas. So that, the quickest way is likely Amazon is where people most likely to go. If you are ordering from my website, there is a little tick box where you can add a note, and I can actually sign the books, dedicate the books. So that's an option if you'd like to have them signed and dedicated to a child. So that's the overview, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we'll make sure that all those links are in the podcast. So if you didn't get any of those details, just go in, just click onto the podcast itself, and you'll see the text will open up, and you're just one click away from these wonderful books that Cate has written, and Cate herself, and you might be able to find some new things for your class if you're a teacher. If you're a parent who wants a good bedtime story, here's a wonderful book for your infant to listen to, or your early young child to listen to as they're drifting off to sleep. One of the things that I love listening to as I drift off to my sleep is I like listening to, I've got this little thing that I ask the smart speaker. I can't say her name because otherwise I'll be woken up by it now. But the smart speaker, I ask them to play this sound, and it's the sound of boats in a harbour with the boats lapping against the water. You know that sound you get?
Yes. Yes,
and sometimes when I can't get off to sleep, I put that on and I'm gone. Like a light. As soon as that comes on, that's it, I'm gone. It's the sound of that water and the boats gently bobbing along in the harbour. And it'd be nice to think that all those children get to the end of the story after mum, dad, nan, granddad, whoever it is who looks after you children, when they get to the end of the book, the child is drifted off to sleep like I do, listening to the sound of the boats in a gentle harbour lapping against the waves lapping against the sides of the boat. Cate, it's been wonderful talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Captain Dave and Eddie. Thank you for having me again, and I'd love to come back again in the future. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to the Dogsthorpe Infant School podcast. Join Captain Dave and his co-pilot Eddie Edster, the well-being dog, on another Launchpad soon. Until then, always remember to be kind, be respectful, and most of all, dream, believe, and shine. Dogsthorpe Infant School is part of Hampton Academies Trust.